I think now we are
Sorry, I was late. I was in
live.
a different meeting.
Let me check if we're going live already. I think it happens to everybody. Oh yeah, we are live. Nice.
Good. I like life.
Great. So let's get started. I am Dimitris Gudis, founder of Three Nuggets, and I'm helping consultants and business coaches build their own digital brain with their own documents and the source of knowledge they want to feed it, and then bring this knowledge into their AI workflows. And today, on this live conversation, my good friend, boy Hijnen, sorry, join us, who's a founder of Vantum Group. Boy, tell us about you.
I'm Boy. I'm Dimitris' best friend because he helped me with something I had been dreaming of, and he made me achieve it in 3 months. So without him, I could not have achieved my professional goal. I'm from Holland. I live in the States, but I will be close to Dimitris again soon. In 4 months, I'll be back in Europe.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward, and I would love to meet in person and run a couple of activities together. So today's conversation is mostly about the product you have developed, where we actually was the reason for getting into collaboration and build this friendship, where this is the client yield. We get started almost a couple of months ago when we met back in December, and you came to me talking about you have a nice framework auditing your clients' data from the billing data, sales data, all the data a company generates during the day running the business. And you applied your own framework auditing these in order to find any hidden opportunities and mostly hidden risks that are hidden inside those data to help them make these findings a piece of gold with return back to them. So what exactly is this framework you created, and how did you create it? What's your experience in business consulting?
I'll try to keep it short. From my experience in my previous roles, which you can view on my LinkedIn profile, I've noticed that there is more revenue hiding in existing clients than people know. And I've seen that on the relationship management side, on the operational side as COO, and as a team lead for an accountancy firm.
Mm-hmm.
Existing clients tend to be managed as don't lose them because they are our lifeblood, but people still accept churn or not having them all around. What I realized is it's not just keep the clients, right, and accept that they are gonna on a downward slope in terms of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
They are actually a growth engine if you manage it that way. That means that instead of looking at the existing departments that are currently working in companies, to look across those departments, and then seeing how can we take the revenue of the existing clients, assess it in such a way that we know that we are not leaving anything on the table. Now, that is, in my case, I realized it's improved retention, so retention lift, increased expansion, so getting more from the clients you already have. That could be upsell, cross-sell, increased pricing, whatever else. And probably the easiest way of getting new business referrals, right? Because if you have happy clients, they will likely or be more likely to act as a reference for your business and make a warm introduction to people like them, with the likelihood of you closing that deal quicker than if you would have reached out to them cold. That combined has not been done before, is what I call the client yield methodology.
Mm-hmm. And how do you recognize these opportunities? What is the process for you? From which are the things you're looking for inside the data?
Well, if you take the result as revenue, right? There are many ways that revenue can increase.
Mm-hmm.
But it starts with clients paying you what you do for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you make sure that, and I call it these three outcomes that I just shared, if you maximize those, the outcome will be an improved revenue number over what you had before. So that means that, for argument's sake, if you have, I don't know, let's just say $1 million, right, in annual revenue from your existing clients. That means if you do as you continue to do, you accept a churn rate of, I don't know, 10%. That next year's clients are worth 900,000, and then going
Mm-hmm.
down. Yet if you run all the motions with the clients holistically combined, and not say retention is part of client services or client experience, expansion is not part of sales only, and referrals are nice when they happen. If you look at it as one single engine, you
Mm-hmm.
can see that if you tweak all of the underlying levers or metrics, that you can actually grow that revenue without having to do a lot more sales to make sure that you don't continue on the downward slope of the revenue. Because currently what happens is existing revenue is expected to go down, and then you have to get net new clients to paint over what you're losing. Yet what I know is that if you keep your current clients and you grow them, then you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a decreasing number of revenue over time. You actually have a compounding revenue number. Doesn't mean that you can't do sales, but that will be in addition to the growth that your existing clients are already generating. So then you really, if you combine the sales with the client yield engine, then you have a real flywheel, because then every revenue will be in addition to what you had before, and not to paint over what's falling off at the back end.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense, because these are the let's say more fundamentals inside your revenue processes, and you can feel less on risk because you start building a permanent relationship with the existing clients, so we can reinvest on this and get
Yeah.
starting grow.
So the other thing I found when I
Mhm.
was looking at this in more detail is that many of the metrics that are currently being used to assess um, business performance as it
Mhm.
stands, they tend to be lagging metrics.
Mm.
Uh, Gross revenue retention, right, is part of the retention. How much have we retained? That shows us what happened, right? Um,
Mhm.
every situation in and of itself will tell you what has happened. What people don't have is predictive or leading metrics that
Mm.
will warn you, hey, this client is is becoming at risk of potentially not renewing their contract, right?
Mhm.
Same goes with renewals. Hey, this client just increased their usage. Um, are you sure that they are still on the same plan, or are they a candidate for a larger, higher tier? Hey, I just realized that this client's been with us, never complained. When was the last time we asked them for referral? If that was 3 years ago, it's basically 36 times missed. But
Mhm.
there's definitely ways that we can say, okay, how can we talk to this existing client that has been happy with us, that has also expanded maybe, right, to warmly introduce us to their friends and peers, to talk good about us, thereby increasing the likelihood of closing the deal.
Yeah. So these are also mostly recognized as KPIs, as predictors,
Yeah,
based on your experience working with and auditing different clients all these years. Nice. So,
experience, not auditing, because prior to me there was no real audit. There were just lagging generic indicators that tells you how things ended up where they are.
oh, that's wonderful. So, boy, would you like to show us how this client yield works? What is the process? What is the
Yeah.
logic behind the scenes? All this part.
Yeah.
And
All right.
I
So
want to show us
two.
also the graph you created. The interface of the
Okay,
graph is I really love it.
that was my question. So let me share my screen. I will do the graph first. So
Mhm.
um, is it working? Can you see it?
I think it's loading. Now I get it. So we're going in here. Now here we are.
Okay. So this graph, or the neural map, is what I call it. This is the visual representation of what client yield is. There are 127 metrics, as you can see in the bottom right corner, that roll up
Mhm.
into 13 drivers, which are technically business functions, for lack of a better term, that capture a group of related underlying KPIs or metrics. And the three colors represent the three different ways to increase revenue, right? So this one is expansion lift. That means increased or upsell, cross sell from existing clients. Referral yield means new deals from or obtained through our existing clients, and this is retention lift, the largest, because it's required to keep this. Most is keeping all your clients. Now, what that does is, if you tweak one of the metrics, it means that your client yield will be improved. Same goes here. Right? It just makes sure that your client yield goes up. The reason
Mhm.
why I came up is not just because I could, but also maybe people recall the Moneyball concept of finding those numbers that actually make or drive real results, not God, but actual numbers.
Hmm.
So if you have 127 metrics that can currently now be tracked automatically and interpreted with the light speed of AI, doing this prior to that was nearly humanly impossible. But with the state of current technology, this is a 7 minute 7 minute read, as I will show you in my next screen sharing. So I'll stop sharing it
Sure.
now. Any
For
questions on
sure.
this? Oh, by the way, the one thing I forgot to say, this is my interpretation of what Dimitris helped build for me. So
Yeah.
Dimitris has his own way of sharing brain graphs. This is the client yield version of it.
Yeah, it's when we get started talking about how we're gonna build the project, we had the question about what would be better, to go with markdown files, which later on means like skills and having the agent running the skills. And you asked me why to prefer uh, knowledge graph. This is the
Knowledge.
database we're using behind the scenes. And the reason I suggested to avoid the skills is that because of the purpose of your project. You want to build something that can be scalable at the level of a client as a service, and it not only help you run every other with your clients, but also help you deliver in the permanent relationship with your own clients the outputs. So we needed to build a sticky, let's say, place of knowledge, exactly like human brain. So that's why we preferred a knowledge graph instead of the skills and the markdown files, which we could start from there, but then we had to convert all these markdown files into a graph database for that reason, to get more and be more deterministic on the outcomes.
Yeah. So maybe to one step back, I asked Dimitris to help me build a Sentinel for to actually achieve increased revenue from existing clients, right? So that's the methodology, the 127 metrics, rolling up into 13 drivers, rolling up in those 3 outcomes. But in order to achieve real dollarized outputs, it needed to be something that was valuable. So I came up with the idea, if there is an automated entity, and I called it the Sentinel at the time, and still stick with it, but open to better words. What it does is periodically it looks at your data and it shows you where the risks and the opportunities are from a client yield perspective. So every time it reads the data, it'll show you, hey, this account went down, right? If it's a $1, it doesn't really matter, but it's where the big ticket items are that you might not have caught otherwise. And the strength is also in combining metrics, right? It's not just looking at your billing data. It's not just looking at your usage data. It's not just looking at whatever single source of truth you have. It's actually combining all of that together, thereby using the strength of AI and then mixing all of that together and finding, hey, where are risks and where are opportunities, all related to how can I get more revenue out of my existing clients. Now, this is again what Dimitris helped me build based on the knowledge graph, because without that, I could not have made that work.
Well, let's get in around a couple of tests. I know you are prepared for that.
Yeah.
So let's go on
So
that.
thanks, and I will do that right away. So this is the current version of the Sentinel, and I'll start with you. I'll start logging in, and then I'll explain to you how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a couple of minutes for it to run. Okay. So what I will upload here is mock data for a company called Flowlink, which is a vertical iPaaS for mid-market professional services firms. It has more than 10 million in recurring revenue. It has 447 clients in 4 pricing tiers, and it's a representation of a realistic mid-market scale company. I couldn't use real companies because the system requires proprietary account level specific data, and that's not available publicly. So I had to create a mock company that is similar to companies that we may know. Like most companies that size, Flowlink doesn't have all of the 7 data sources that the Sentinel needs to calculate the 127 metrics. Those are billing, product telemetry, CRM sales, CRM support, survey data, RevOps data, and marketing advocacy data. Those combined will give the largest and most complete returns. Now, what I will upload is not 7 because it's not likely that all companies have all 7. But what we'll show you is how it works. Okay. So the data is mock, but again, deliberately real world messy, right? It's not something that I created and made nice round numbers for anything that looks like it's humanly generated and it fits my need. But here are the 5 that I have that I've uploaded. I will click what it is. So survey responses, support tickets, CRM, product telemetry, and billing. And I will click uploading files. So now it's going to analyze all of this data. This is 12 to 16 months worth of data. Not all the same. So client X started maybe 12 months ago, client Y 13 months ago, client Z 11 months ago, etc. And that goes across for both the billing as well as the product usage, etc. So it's messy and incomplete on purpose. And the way that it works is that most of those systems will also have different naming conventions. So, for example, one of the ones that is in this data set is called Driftwood Tax Group. It's mentioned that in the billing system, but it's called Driftwood Tax and Advisory in product telemetry. The way that I've built it is in any other system that is currently out there, those will blow out as they're not the same. So nothing can be gleaned from them. But thanks to the power of AI and thanks to Claude's fuzzy math logic, they can actually say, well, Driftwood Tax Group is 98% the same as Driftwood Tax and Advisory. So they will definitely combine those two together. And the same goes with the account IDs, just like a real client setup. Now, sorry, go ahead. You wanted to ask me something?
Yeah. I want to ask you, because we know from the experience, you get started working mostly with ChatGPT, where you had the project in there. It doesn't matter about the LLM, actually, even if the LLM has greater advantages or less advantages, based on the prompt and the information we give or the markdown files, you can adjust it. But the interesting thing to me is that you gave it the first the list of prompts, the long description on the project, and you were working on that direction, where the results from your testing processes were not that matching how this actually worked, working with the project, and then what's happened in building the Sentinel 0 to 1.
Yeah. So initially, I was hoping that this would be an AI only setup, but it cannot be. Even though I'm and again, thanks to or maybe Anthropic should thank Dimitris, but I went from ChatGPT basic version to the Claude Max version because without that I couldn't have built this. Just because of the sheer compute power and the quality of the output, but what I realized initially when starting to build this is that the even Claude Max is not capable of running large sets of data deterministically. So how I ended up building it is, like I said before, first an AI layer will do the fuzzy math to make sure that that all of the names are correct, right? So it will marry all of the names with the 5 different files that I uploaded. Then that is handed off as a deterministic table to an engine that will then calculate all of the 127 metrics if available, right? Because some might not be available in the data. But whatever is available will be calculated through that deterministic engine. That deterministic engine will then hand it back to Claude for interpretation, and Claude will then call the brain graph that was created with the methodology to assess whether the output is favorable or unfavorable from a client yield perspective, which is then what is going to come out once this process is done loading, and the advice will come in a couple of more minutes. Does that answer your question, Dimitris?
Absolutely. And here's, I think it's worth it to be mentioned that the reason that LLMs at the moment, on the day of working on these processes, are not able to run these massive calculations deterministically is that they use the LLM power, but when they can do the calculations deterministically is when they understand how this KPI or this metric, it's better term, is calculated, and creating the script to go and calculate it. So then they run the code to execute all the maths and give us the outcome. So I find this very interesting outcome from this journey we had also, that instead of asking AI how much is 1 plus 1 as a total, it's better to ask it to build the formula that will calculate the sum and run the code, because it's pretty good in writing down the code or review the code and execute the code and take the outcome from the code. And this is what you did here to achieve that gap.
Yeah, that is exactly that, because when I didn't put the deterministic engine in between that, right? The output would have been all over the place and it would not have been valuable. What this has allowed me to do is indeed drill down or filter out that data that's helpful from a client yield perspective, but also the mapping, right? Because of the different namings. The logic does mapping, making sure that everything is within the same entity or the same client level. And then, as you just showed up, it popped up the results. It will spew back out whatever it sees as, and this is all based on the methodology, whatever is suggested as the solution. So let's just run through it, right? So for FlowLink, the suggestion is your business is sitting on 1.76 million in addressable revenue opportunity, or almost 14.6% of your 12.1 million installed base. So FlowLink runs 12.1 million on an annual basis, but they're leaving 1.76 million on the table, right? So this is the summary. What it then starts doing is, okay, your expansion engine is genuinely strong. It's 136%, right? I think that the industry average is probably 110. But you're growing or leaking, or you're growing on a leaky foundation, because your GRR, or your retention rate, sits at 86.4%, which means that you are losing 435, and this goes back to the example I gave you, per year in revenue you should be retaining, right? So 435 is already a quarter of that million that can be improved. Now, this is the summary. If you scroll down to the full report, lots and lots of AI generated, super helpful info, which I would suggest to run through everyone's own LLM. But how about the biggest whales in my data? Which companies and where is the quickest kill expansion opportunity, right? So where can I grow the quickest? Okay.
So you go with a follow-up question against to the report, right?
To the LLM that's overlaying this, right? So it now queries the same data.
All right. So it uses the report, not the calculated data, to bring the response back to you.
The report is a nicer view of the calculated data assessed against the client yield methodology, right? So whatever is in its working memory, this report that I'm scrolling through now is the human-facing output of it, right? But the underlying data is what will help it make this answer, right? Will intelligence report, ranked by opportunity, usage whales, expansion targets. these accounts are consuming far beyond what their ARR justifies, right? So it shows you exactly what you need to do. So what this is, this becomes a decision tool to tell you where to focus on next. And imagine this is this run, right? Next run, whenever you have updated data, run it through here, and it will show you what changed, right? If changed and nothing is important, it will not flag it. But it will, if you haven't done anything about this, it will either exacerbate it, right? It will say, or you can say, I will address TLM 061, right? I will address TLM 0168. Ask me next time, or confirm next time. That means that it will remember this, and it will say, if the data hasn't changed, they'll say, what was the outcome of your actions to reach out to TLM 0168, right? What have you done? Because the data will show if nothing's changed, it's still the same alert, which means it's become more important, right? Because a month delay means the urgency increases. And I'm saying a month because in many cases, this data gets updated by every month. It's probably not yet helpful to run this every day, right? Because you may not have updated data every day, but definitely once a week or once a month is where this needs to be run, and will give you very helpful suggestions on where to increase the revenue from your existing clients, to not let it run away, to ask for more business from your existing clients based on usage, etc., and to know which ones are referral ready, and to close those.
Can you ask it for a follow-up strategy and take back the directions what to do, like an action plan based on the findings? Because here's the thing, we are in a consulting domain in general for many years, you even more than me. And what I see is that the first layer in consulting is to do the recognition, the auditing. So, and find what's going on, to have a better understanding what it is here, and so on. And the next layer is to go with an action plan as a suggestion, or at least this is what clients expect from us. And I understand also the responsibility to telling the client your own suggested action plan for him, because actually for us who are doing the consulting, there is no risk. But for the business owner, there is the risk because they need to switch on a different direction. And so here I want to ask you, does a client yield return answers, accurate ones, like you in process? And how does it go?
See my prompt, right? Give me an action plan for the top 10 actions from all of these findings, biggest impact and lowest hanging fruit first.
And how does it think now? What is the process for thinking?
It refers back to the knowledge graph.
Okay. And the knowledge graph is actually like your suggested framework, and
yes,
it brings back. Okay.
So one of the things that's in the knowledge graph, which doesn't show in the the neural map that I shared, there are certain metrics which are higher impact or more important than others. So it will look at those weightings and it will address those, and it will run that against the, here we go. Here's your top 10, right?
Give us a top one.
TLM, 264K in additional ARR. Effort one conversation timeline this week. Already committed. Logging for follow-up. That's the one I replied to. Cliffside Capital, impact, 120,000 at-risk ARR. Effort, 2 phone calls, timeline this week. Both accounts are 30 days past due at $60,000 each. This is the fastest cash recoverable, right? Don't email, call. Determine within 48 hours what the problem is, right? Assign an owner and make calls today. This is that, right? And this is assessed by what's the revenue impact of all of these findings? How can I get the biggest revenue confirmed and committed from my clients with the least amount of effort? So that's how this has all been ranked from 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm. And are there any risks on suggestions, or if we follow those suggestions, is there any probability for any kind of risk?
Of course, right? It's a suggestion which is based on data. The client temperature is not read in this specific case because there's no data out of the 7 sources. 2 data sources aren't there, which is survey and marketing advocacy data. So this is just the data telling you the consequences. What in this case of calling this company that is 2 months behind on their billing, right? Maybe something else is going on. This cannot see that. What it does show is, hey, there's a revenue risk. You need to determine what the cause is. If for whatever reason it's something that's it's beyond saving, right? Case, or they've decided that they want to move. This shows that, right? So what it also then shows is if you run this on a continuous basis, it will give you signals of where to focus on. And because some of them are like this was more of a lagging. You have 2 months not being paid. It's a little bit of a lagging signal because it hasn't been paid, but it's also a leading signal because it could tell you something's going on that you haven't seen, right? So it's definitely worthwhile picking up the phone and saying what's going on, right? Now, whatever comes out of that call, I cannot determine that. What it does say is make the call, right? The call could be, and if you're a really good salesperson, the call could be an upsell.
Yeah.
Right? That's something that this system doesn't show. It just shows, hey, this is at risk. And it doesn't show the history. It could be because, yeah, I know because whatever, they told us X, Y, and Z, but I don't have that data. Or it could be, hey, this hasn't paid, what's going on? Maybe we can help them. It could be an upsell or a cross-sell or a referral opportunity. It is just a signal that is there to make sure that the revenue from your existing client is both protected and grown.
Nice. And it makes sense because this is also about the negotiation. When human get into one-to-one conversation, how do we communicate? What is the sense? What is the relationship we build? So all these things matter a lot, and they have strong impact on the final deal closing. But I see one of the documents you've uploaded, boy, here is the support ticket. So how does the client yield count the support tickets as in the process? Like it's counting the number of support tickets. Does take the context for the problem solved and so on?
It will, and it does. But it's more, again, a signal of, do they need a lot of support, right? Is that because they, A, don't understand the product?
Yeah.
Or B, they're so, what is it? They're so, they require it so much for their own business processes that it's actually a signal for upsell, right? So it's both the quantity and the quality that will be run through the methodology that the AI layer will interpret in its way. And again, it's a suggestion for a human to take the next step. And it's all meant to signal risk or opportunity.
It makes sense. Yeah.
And the one thing that I wanted to say something else as well is like,
Mhm.
because this is an LLM interface that we're dealing with, right? You can also ask it for the specific. And I can show it, but probably
Yeah,
everyone
let's do
understands.
it.
Let's do the that's this one, right? No, this here, this is the
Uh-huh.
ticket. Let's do this. Let's do Cliffside Capital, right? So Cliffside Capital, give me the script to use for the call, right? And now it
Mhm.
becomes a real intelligent layer. And again, this is an angle. They don't know the client, right? So, but at least it's a starting point that a person can use to say, "Hey, that's indeed an interesting angle, and it's definitely worthwhile using." Or maybe I'll tweak it here and there, and
Mm.
that can be done in this system, right? Because it is its own LLM. Or if the business itself has its own LLM that knows the clients much better, right? Here, this is then the all right, Cliffside Capital collections and health check call script. Before you dial, pull these facts, blah blah blah. Opening, right?
Okay.
So this is where it becomes state of the art a bit more, because I think that a lot of people use their LLM to do it this way for any approach, right? What is the most sensible approach in this specific case? What it
Mm.
doesn't do in this case yet, and it will, because once more data is fed about the client, this will become even better, right? Because
Mm.
it's more information about Cliffside Capital. Now we'll take a generic approach. It'll just know how general business is being done. So I would, for in the first couple of instances, I would definitely run this past your own LLM or past your own personal judgment. But in the
Mhm.
long run, once you have this system in place for 6 months, this is your go-to place, right? They'll know that Cliffside Capital has not done X, Y, and Z because you fed it all that stuff. So it definitely becomes your ongoing sentinel that looks along with everything that you do, and that is there for you to extract more revenue out of your existing clients. Am I pitching
Mm.
too much there, Dimitris?
No, no, no. It's not enough, I would say, because there are a lot of hidden things and smart things working right here. And the truth is that I was in the process for dealing with the tech part, and for now it's also for me a nice opportunity to review the methodology from the side of how it can bring value to business. We had this discussion also last week on the mastermind session where you gave us a closed presentation. We got into questions from the audience, and now it's another opportunity also to review again on the workflow and the product. So I really want to get into that even deeper, and I'm just curious about, because I don't know, for what kind of businesses is that thing, and
Yeah.
what is the adjustability from, so how can you adjust it, the logic from for businesses in different domains or in different business models maybe.
So it is currently optimized for businesses with recurring revenue.
Hmm.
It's broad, which means that any business that has clients that pay them either a monthly subscription fee or an annual subscription fee, or even a retainer, but also it can work with one-off engagements, right? Because take manufacturing, for example. If a client puts in a large order and you deliver the products, the hope is, or the goal is, that that client returns for a 1.1 million order the next time instead of no order, right? However
Hmm.
long maybe in between. As long as everyone sees that clients are the foundation of everyone's services and bread and butter, the more you get out of them, the more it will help you as a business. Client yield is designed to help with that, and
Hmm.
it will only grow better the more data it has over time, right? So the start is what you see here. Over time, it will be your always on Sentinel that will tell you what to do whenever, and it will know your clients even better than what it does currently, providing generic output. So it is definitely worth something for, I would say, maybe not the smaller companies, because if you have 10 clients, you probably know all of them, what's going on, where something is wrong. But when things are starting to be maybe around the 25, 30, 50 clients, that's where
Mhm.
your own brain as a human may, um, or if you're great at admin, which not everyone is, right? Uh,
Mm.
it tends to be very delayed, right? It still lives within your brain. This will do everything for that, right? Because it'll show you the numbers, will just show you where things are, and it will do the logic, overarching all of it together. It will make correlations that a super smart human like Dimitris could make, but not so smart human like myself could not make. It'll show you things you may not have thought of. And again, the more data, the better it will become.
Okay. And how can you make the adjustments? So if a client uh, from commerce domain, let's say they run an online business selling products online on Amazon and so on, which is here there are a lot of auditing opportunities right there, keeping hidden because of the credits and the debit part of the money flow, and this can bring you to other type of risks. So because you make a purchase from your vendor, you own the product sometimes, or you may drop ship it, but at the same time you are not paid upfront. Sometimes you pay in parts the fee from your client. There are tons of scenarios there that actually have strong impact on your finances and the way you have to make decisions, because it's not only the decisions in marketing and planning, it's also for managing the resources you have
Yeah,
inside the business. And for me, I think that online sellers are very challenging cases, because you have to get deeper and deeper and understand their business model. So that for a case like that, how would you adjust the methodology, not just the client yield as a service, right?
yeah,
Your methodology, I mean.
yeah. So for those people, I would initially say find a fractional CFO style service, because
Hmm.
what that does, and that's not much different from what the client yield Sentinel would do, right? On a per client basis, um, whatever the debits and the credits are, right, over time, the end result will show up, right? And you could pick 12 months, 60 months, 18 months, 3 months, right? Client A bought product Y today for $20, and 1 month later I have to credit him $10. 3 months later, the net of that client is $10, right?
Yeah.
If that one buys another product for $40, 4 months later, then all of a sudden at 6 months, that
Hmm.
the net is $50, right? Whatever the billing data shows is what the net is. What client yield will show is that, right? It'll show, hey, it's going this way. Why I recommend the CFO service is because it will look at that more specifically only on the money movements, and it will ask you the questions: what happened here? Client yield currently does not show, or it could. I would definitely try, but I would need more than just the billing data to determine what's going on and how am I maximizing my actual bottom line, right?
Hmm.
This assumes that you already have a recurring revenue base that keeps the light on, right? Not just starting out, but making sure that all of the money that comes in and out of anyone's account is accounted for, and at the end of whatever period you're in the plus, you have a profit, right? If that profit is
Hmm.
not sustain you, fine. But there are, I guess, simpler ways to achieve that, if I understand your example correctly, than client yield. Client yield is a step further because it will show you all of that combined, right? It will not just look at the billing data, but
Mm,
whatever data they have to business data, they have to assess how a business is doing. For e-commerce, maybe there's items that I don't know, but it could definitely be reviewed. Just doesn't automatically fit into client yield. What will happen if I run through it instead of more metrics? It will calculate less metrics. Doesn't mean there's not anything of value in whatever comes out of it, but there are other ways that I would think could be used to achieve that.
mhm. Are there any paradoxes in this analysis? Why I'm asking that thing? It sounds weird, I know, but you know what? In data analytics, sometimes it's not about the number, but it's about how do you understand the number. And when you go to suggest a strategy for driving a business, for example, it's important to understand what drives the data, what pushes these trends you see. So you have to follow that things as learnings. And I'm pretty sure here that in the next round, you upload the data. Client yield can track trends on different metrics, right? So it can recognize the changes on its metric. So running that many times, I'm pretty sure you already tested with actual clients. You were doing your consulting. Have you saw any paradox coming up?
Not yet. I'll be honest, not yet.
Okay, so
But as you saw,
Mhm.
whilst you were talking, I was thinking of let me test it out on the fly to see what pops up. So we're all waiting anxiously to see what our good friend Claude finds in this in all of this data.
Oh, you're using Claude as an LLM?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, nice.
There we go. Let's see what they say.
Yeah, I'm really curious for that.
Quite a few, apparently. Yes, several. The growth paradox. NRR is exceptional, GRR is broken. Both are true simultaneously. Okay.
Uh-huh.
These two numbers together, and that's I think the starting point of the analysis, right? Whilst you have a large uh, income of more new business, you lose a lot on the back end, right? And this tends to
Mhm.
happen with most businesses. They lose more on the back end that they want, but that forces them, and in this case it works well, that forces them to find a lot more new business in order to end up at a net acceptable level. But just imagine, right?
Mhm.
If your here it says NR 136, benchmark 110, GRR or the revenue retention below the 90% benchmark. Just imagine that if you would increase this to, let's just say, 90 or 95, you'll be up or above benchmark, right? That means, bottom line, you can still use all of the revenue that you get from the NRR, but you don't lose it at the back end. So you're painting over less churn, which means more net revenue to you or net bottom line to you once you've done this. So your what's the word I'm looking for? Your delta becomes lower, which means you'll have more money in your pocket. Right? That's the first
Mm.
paradox. The engagement paradox is paradox two. Users are engaging heavily, but fewer users are engaging over time. Right? That's
Mm. Get it. Wow.
right. And that all this is all gleaned from the real world messy data. Right? What is the other paradox? The support paradox. High support volume is simultaneously your biggest risk signal, is what we just discussed, and your biggest commercial leverage point. Because, like I said, it could be that people do not know how to use the product, or they use the product so much that they make sure that they know how it works because it runs their business, right? Which brings me back to the example of calling that client that has 2 months late. Depending on what the situation is with that client, it's either a signal of that we're losing them, right? Or it's a signal if they need our help, and if we do this well, we can grow their business, right? So it's both. That's that, and it goes down to how many paradoxes it finds?
Found 6 or 7.
And then the biggest paradox in your entire data set is the meta paradox. You have 136 NRR, which is elite tier, 5 active data sources, sophisticated telemetry, and enough signal to identify usage, whales, and yet you are at risk. Your at risk identification is 0. Your CRM is not using any of this data to flag risk proactively, right? You're on an intelligent infrastructure that you're not operationalizing, right? So I think that answers your question even more than you and I would have expected.
Absolutely. Definitely, didn't expect this answer. For many reasons and many experiences in the past, because what happens is we may look at the same KPIs and metrics, but and we talk about the same business case, but we have different backgrounds. There are different things we're focusing on. So what happens is we go with different conclusions from what's going on in this case. What do we have to suggest? Where should we focus on mostly? And this is very important because most of the companies are driven based on the culture of the people who drive the company. We saw, for example, that companies who are AI first today are managed by people who have the background of innovation, being creative, pushing out the limits. They do the adaptation very early. When a new technology, a new trend comes up in the market, they want to use it and go up there. So the suggestion you give based on the outcomes and the findings as a conclusions are also affected from this culture of thinking, let's say. I got surprised. I didn't expect having this outcome, to be honest. It's impressive.
So, yeah, this is nor did I. But again, it's all the result of it's data, right? It's not data is what drives the best decisions. God will help, but data is what tells you what has happened and what needs to happen, right? Either risk or opportunity. The execution will lie with humans, and that's fine, right? But the analysis and knowing what to do first is now based on data, as it probably always should have been, but wasn't, but also due to the current capabilities, this is now possible. Whereas 10 years ago, this was, if somebody could do this, they'd be in such short time as well, right? I think you and I discussed this in such short time. That would be, I don't want to name names, but there's consultancies that charge a lot of money for this type of insight.
Yeah, definitely. And it's quite interesting that the fact that I had some friends who are very brilliant people with really strong intelligence. I say few of them are working for the big four companies, consulting agencies, who are offering these kind of services. Of course, they have the credibility and authority of the big brand name, but The outcome comes from the people who write the report. And what is the thing that this guy can see is very important. You know, what comes to my mind from my experience, because I never been work in these corporate environments. I was mostly on startup environments and building stuff. And since very recently I started a new entity with my wife here in Greece, what we did as first step was to establish a way of tracking our data and having a weekly frequency of reviewing our data, adjusting the decisions every single week. And here's the thing, that we have the data, we do the tracking on a basic moment, and we had two questions coming up. The first one is, okay, if we had a bank giving us a loan, or if we had uh, other investors investing in our entity, what should we show them from this data? Because a couple of data we see may have the red color, which makes sense, but we have the understanding of why these numbers are red. Red means not good, but this is not alarming for us because we know where we are, what is the age. We run the business, for example, for 10 months now. So it's quite normal, quite natural to be at this point. We get started from there, but the way we drive the business is what we have to look at. And these kind of things, I'm getting to the conversation with those friends of mine who are doing this business, saying, give me suggestions. What do you think? What do you see in so that? And I see that if the person is not involved inside the business and has no understanding of the business model, how the money of costs are converted to revenue, because this is the model thing, we start having gaps of meanings, right? So we start losing it as an outcome from these cases. So yeah,
I think just to add, and of course I have to say this, but you will read and learn what investors want to see. That's you can even ask your own LLM, right? Or bank. What client yield will give you is something that is proof, right, that you are managing your existing clients, right? And if it so shows that I started using client yield when I was at $90,000 existing clients, just throwing out a number, right? And after 6 months, I was at, I don't know, 110 for existing. Like, then you show that you are growing your existing clients, right? And then that data can be extracted back into a GRR, an NRR, and a client lifetime value, right? This is all the underlying data that makes up those numbers, right? But it's also it's more detailed, right? So they can, you could argue, you can give them a report and they can run it through their own AI and post it against their thesis, and then something will pop up. But if you have something like this for your business, that here I'm saying as well that these downloads that I provided are from 5 different systems, right? Billing is not captured in CRM. Product usage is not captured in CRM, right? Argue that sales could be, and support tickets, and maybe what is it? Surveys, NPS and client satisfaction, but not always. Maybe you don't even have that. and maybe you run that separately through a type form and you capture the data in an Airtable. But it's all of that business combined can be uploaded into the client yield methodology. For now, CSV only, but I'll give it to me. I'll convert it to CSV. That's like a 5-minute job. And then it will spit out what needs to be done for your existing clients. Risk, opportunity. That means basically it can run your business for you or suggest you how to do it, right? No, it won't run it, but it'll tell you, hey, this is what you need to focus on. Then by running it over and over again, results will pop up, right? Will ensue. Whatever those results are, know how effective this has been.
Lovely.
And that will show up again in the same data that you upload into the Sentinel.
That's true. And use them. Boy, we're in time. I want to thank you for joining today. It was a fantastic conversation. Really enjoyed it. I really love learning from your side of you, which is mostly on the business side of you. Well, I'm doing the technical part as usual. I really like that learning from you, man. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, and I will say what I started with in not my first sentence, but maybe my second sentence. I couldn't have done this without you. So I love what I do. It's super valuable. Of course, I have to say that. But again, without you, this would not have been possible. Because maybe just to, I don't know if we're still on time, but I do think it's worth mentioning. I came to you saying, how can I build a Sentinel? And you said, this is the way. And guess what? Here we are.
Thanks, man. I appreciate your kind words. It's a pleasure. Stay in touch.
All right. See ya.
Bye.